I don't need to tell anybody here. That was a disappointing loss in East Lansing on Saturday. Of course, Nebraska goes down to Michigan State in a tight one, 20-17, a late touchdown to make it close, but not able to complete another drive to get the job done. Welcome to Huskers Live right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all being here. Comments and questions are welcome. Of course, your contributions as well. Those super chats certainly stand out. If you want to provide those with your comments and questions right here on our weekly show, which is moved from Tuesday to Thursday. And then at the end of the regular season, we'll decide on what works best for Greg and myself. But Tuesday moving to Thursday, blame me. College football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. And let's be a little optimistic before we pitch it to Greg. Despite what happened on Saturday, Iowa won. But everybody else in contention lost. Minnesota lost. Wisconsin lost. That means Nebraska still can win the rest of its games. That sets up a showdown against Iowa. They would theoretically be one game behind and take care of business against Iowa. And it's a little more complicated than that, but that would pretty much seal the deal for the Huskers. Greg, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
I am doing just fine. Greg just made it back from today's Matt Rule news conference. Just made it back.
Yeah, barely.
Well, appreciate you being here. What did Matt Rule have to say today?
Oh, just a lot of there was a lot of talk about Talia Tagovailoa, obviously, with a dynamic player that he is, probably going to be, Nebraska's toughest test against a mobile quarterback since, they saw secure Sanders. So going to be a tall task for Nebraska, with the Maryland team that throws the ball pretty much more than anybody. I think they've led the nation the last 2 years in pass attempts. So, they're definitely going to throw it around and spread it out and go tempo. So I think that's Nebraska's biggest worry, especially coming off of that performance last week where the defense obviously was not happy with the outcome of that game in East Lansing. So, a lot of emphasis on playing more aggressive and eliminating mistakes overall during the week. So it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. You like it that it's at home. If there's like Coach Rule mentioned today, he wishes it would be icy and snowy, but looks like we're in for a pretty nice day on Saturday. So that kind of works in Maryland's favor. So yeah, you dug yourself a hole after losing last week to a team that we all thought was inferior, but they still have everything in front of them. It's just a little bit harder of a road to get through now. That cushion is getting a lot smaller. If you lose on Saturday, then you got a tall order ahead of you winning at Wisconsin and then playing an Iowa team that is always a pretty tough opponent for Nebraska.
Yeah, Nebraska's best path is to create a two-way tie with Iowa, and then they would obviously have to win the game at the end, but create just a one-game gap between them and Iowa, which currently exists. But if there's a three-way tie, then it becomes rather messy, and Nebraska's lost to Minnesota factors in. They would have to beat Wisconsin, you would think, to be there anyway, so they'd have the tiebreaker against Wisconsin, but don't necessarily know that they need to be focusing on scenarios. That's what we do, but they focus on them. They need to go out there and win the games. Maryland's coming off of its own issues in recent weeks. They started 5-0. They've lost 4 straight. They took a 51-15 beatdown from Penn State at home. Talia hit on 29 of 39 in that game for 286, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. He was certainly not the issue. Get this, Greg. I don't know if you picked up on this in the game notes or anything, or if they even put this in the Maryland game notes because it's not very flattering. Their rushing yardage for last week is the lowest in the Big Ten this century. They rushed for -49 against Penn State. Of course, that was sack yardage, a ton of that. But even their running backs went 7 carries for 1 yard. No. Make that 8 carries for -2 yards. The running backs, 8 carries, -2 yards. So I think Nebraska's rush defense, for as well as they've played, should be able to handle that. It's like you just said, it's all about getting some pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's a slippery guy. So, Nebraska's got to keep keep everything in front of them and keep swarming to the ball like they have been doing all season. Keep Talia in check. So, gonna be a tough task, I think. Even with that horrible rushing stats from last week for Maryland.
It will be, and I was slightly surprised with the betting line of 2.5 in Maryland's favor on the road. Of course, Nebraska was a slim favorite against Michigan State of 3 points in that range. Our guy that comes on here from Wager Talk, Steve Merrill, he actually had, Nebraska fans, if you want to feel good about this, he actually had his math model taking Michigan State to win by 1 or 2 points, which turned out to be the case. But he, despite the 2.5 point spread in Maryland's favor, has Nebraska ahead 3 or 4 points this weekend. Heinrich Haarberg got sacked 7 times, and the Michigan State defense had 12 tackles for loss in that game. So I got to think that was a combination offensive line, but also Haarberg trying to make things happen, holding the ball too long, all of that.
Yeah, pretty much that was the case. And then, some bad decision making on his part. But, he's a sophomore and, he's just now getting this chance to actually play. So, he's still a work in progress. He definitely continues to keep growing. But when you have so many restrictions on offense with, when you're missing 8 of your 11 starters from the beginning of the season, makes it a little difficult to keep that continuity. And, you're relying on so many young players, which, you've seen those young guys really step up. Some of those receivers like Malachi Coleman is such a difference maker, with his blocking that a lot of people don't realize. And he's a tenacious blocker out there on the outside. And, if you were watching the game and, Haarberg had that one just horrific throw down the field when Alex Bullock was wide open and he just threw it to a different part of the field. And, he explained on Tuesday about that. And he blames himself because they'd been practicing that play all week. And every single time the route went to where he threw it. And, he just didn't recognize that Alex Bullock had beaten his man badly. And, it was just wide open. I don't know how you don't see that, but, that was unfortunate.
Malachi Coleman, a really good blocker. So what impresses me about that is usually for number one, he's a big time recruit. So he didn't necessarily catch anybody's eye. I'm sure that the coaches, the scouts, they catch it. Of course, they're looking for those things, but that's obviously not why he was the top rated recruit. And then for him to be a young player who's still going to develop more physically, also understand his responsibilities and so forth in the run game, that's really impressive to hear, because usually young receivers have to be coached into that.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's used to being on the line and being real physical. In high school, he played defensive end and wide receiver. So, he was pretty impressive on the defensive side while he was a high school player. So, it's no mystery why he's a good blocker. He's just used to playing, close-up quarters like that.
They've lost 8 of 11 starters since week 1.
Yep.
So I'm guessing that's basically Thomas Fedone still there. And that's the rest are offensive linemen, the other 2?
Yep, Bryce Benhart and
Ben Hart.
And who else would you have in there?
Somebody else up front. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah, I think if you take everything into
Ben Scott would be the other one.
Ben Scott. Yeah, you take all that into consideration, and everybody's taking on injuries, but I don't know that I've heard that stat out of any other team. 8 of 11 starters on one side of the ball.
Yeah, it's been rough. At least the good news is that Coach said today that Billy Kemp will be ready to go and most likely will play. So he wanted to play last week, but they kind of held off on it. They did put him in there for punt returns, but that was just to catch the ball. So he had orders not to return anything. But yeah, he should be back though. So that's good news.
If this team can get one win, the last 3 weeks, get to 6-6, in my book, that's a success, especially considering the injuries on offense.
Yeah. And they get Malcolm Herzog back as well. He'll be ready to go. He'd gotten banged up some last week, so last couple of weeks.
I know that across the nation, it's not wowing anyone in regards to a record or a style of play because it's rather, limited, of course, passing and so forth. But I think it's rather easy to see what Matt Rule's doing and how effective he is, and that he's got something started here. He knows what he's doing. He knows what course he's on. And I think the early returns are really good, actually, despite how ugly it looks on the field sometimes. I just think that, he is proving game by game to be the right choice for this head coaching job.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've won 5 games, and you could probably say all 5 of them were pretty ugly. But, when you have the right formula and, try to, how to compete in this league, by running the ball and stopping the run and having that as a philosophy that you're standing behind, like we haven't seen in the previous regimes here, that, it's a successful way to navigate through a league that is a physical league.
We're here talking Huskers here at the Voice of College Football. We got Greg Peterson, of course, here for our next edition, whatever number we're on here, 145. That's about 3 consecutive years, folks. We're getting through close to the 3-year mark. Appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football.
So the good thing for Saturday, I would say, though, is at least the Maryland defense is atrocious. So Nebraska should have a better day on offense.
It is pretty bad. Certainly, they got carved up by a Penn State offense that hasn't been prolific by any stretch. I was scurrying to come up with their national ranks on defense, but
we have it in the notes. So this will also be the week that everybody has to purchase the Peacock so they can watch the game.
Oh, it's one of those.
Yeah.
That's the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fan bases always love to hear that.
Yeah, so. I'm sure a lot of I've already heard people asking, how do you get Peacock?
Yeah, one by one, these Big Ten fan bases are coming across that. I didn't realize, that this is the first for the Huskers.
And 11 a.m. game, too. So, big lot planned, for Veterans Day too. There will be a lot of veteran type
That's right.
celebrations going on. Like I was telling you earlier today, they had during their family dinner night, they had a bunch of veterans and their families join in, and then today there was a bunch of veterans and their families that got to come and watch practice and have a luncheon, and they gave away to one of the lucky veterans got a big Nebraska Harley Davidson motorcycle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, all decked out in Husker stuff. And
You saw it?
I didn't see it, but Coach Rule said all the players were enamored by it, and they kind of joked that Coach Rule was going to ride that out, out through the tunnel before the game. But yeah, they're taking it very seriously. A lot of celebrations going on, and a bunch of veterans will be honored at halftime, and big flyover plan with some Army helicopters, and they're going to have 100-yard American flag on the field for the game, and so it should be pretty neat. And then they have a big parade on Sunday for Veterans Day. So
Nebraska comes into this game 18th in total defense, 11th in yards per play. Wow. So their defense is obviously, we already knew that, been doing the job all season.
Well, it's funny, though, too, when you talk to Tony White, he's not satisfied, and he doesn't want to hear anything about, how good they are right now. And, he says that he evaluates all that after the season's over. So it's meaningless during the season to him. But, yeah, he was upset last week about just the lack of aggression that the defense was playing with. So, you look for them to really come out aggressive this week.
Maryland, number 44 in total defense, 37th in yards per play against. You'd really have to go game by game to see how that stacks up, because college football is so uneven with the schedule. They played Charlotte. They played an FCS. You'd have to go week by week to really look at how they've played. And, of course, it wasn't pretty last week against Penn State. They gave up, let's see. They gave up a little over 400 yards of total offense, 404, and the 51 points.
Yeah,
right, folks.
Tonga, I think this is interesting, though.
Yep.
Tonga Vailoa, he's got the fourth best completion rate of all time in college football.
Does he really?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, they like to chuck the ball around, and he's a guy that attempts at least 30 pass attempts per game for 2 years straight. So,
yeah, I am guessing. So he's been the starting quarterback there since the beginning of 2020. So this is his fourth season starting. Obviously, that was a short season.
My bad. It's fourth best by any Big Ten quarterback all time.
Gotcha. So, yeah, let's see here.
That completion percentage is 668, so that's pretty darn good.
Yep. He's got 73 career touchdown passes. He's thrown for over 10,000 yards. Yeah, I'm not going to try to dig up. I got to think at 10,000 yards passing and all those other numbers that he's accumulated since 2020, he would rank pretty high all time, maybe top 50 in most of those major categories. What's your high school schedule look like Friday night?
You only got 2 games to really pick from, so I don't know. I'm probably going to go see Millard South and Elkhorn South. The other choice would be West Side, who just destroying everybody. They just pounded Bellevue West last week, the huge blowout. So I think they're a shoe in for the state title once again. So yeah, that's probably where I'll end up, somewhere in Omaha for sure.
Where'd you go last weekend?
I was at Millard South last weekend as well. Very good up and coming team with a lot of young guys.
Any Nebraska targets?
You got young guys there that haven't got offered yet, but they will down the road here. They're all a bunch of sophomores right now, so. Getting down there.
What are we down to? Quarterfinals, semifinals?
Yeah, semifinals. So got this week, and then the finals on the 21st.
Oh, so you're talking about 2 games in the entire state. Are you talking about, does everyone play in the same division, or?
Oh, I'm talking about Class A division.
How many classes in the state?
A through D2. You got A, B, C1, C2, D1, D2.
Bone-Led Corn-Fed, good to see you. William, Jackson, thanks for supporting. Appreciate y'all being here. Ed as well. We posted a poll on the front page of the channel, who you're looking to pull this game out on Saturday. So take your pick, join the poll. Maryland and Nebraska. 2.5 point spread for Maryland last time I checked. All right, folks.
I expect some points to be scored on Saturday, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know which way I'm going on that. Just because Nebraska's bringing the defense and not bringing much offense. So you're telling me it's going to be nice weather? What's that mean? Like mid to high 50s?
Yep. Nice sunny day. We've been pretty lucky. We've only had 1 cold game so far. So
yeah, you've been lucky. I know that's a big deal for you.
Oh yeah, it was nice being able to wear shorts last Friday doing high school.
And then there's only going to be one more that you have to deal with.
Yeah, that Iowa game always a chilly one, it seems like. No matter if it's in Lincoln or Iowa City, it's always pretty nasty.
Folks in the chat, give us your level of confidence that Nebraska can win the Big Ten Western Division. They're a game behind, tied with Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yeah, the one thing you just can't do is go 0-3 here the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, not to get to a bowl.
Yep.
Unless they have another 5-7 bowl team.
Well, I don't even want to know what bowl you're going to with that record.
Like they did under, oh my word, Mike Riley. Yeah, so we posted this poll. We've got 162 votes in. Nebraska, 77%. But the crowd's a little biased.
We'll just put it this way. It should be a little bit more of an interesting game than you're going to see in Iowa City. That the over-under is 28 right
Yeah, that's crazy.
Iowa and Rutgers.
And I got to tell you that if Rutgers wins that game, I don't know what that tells us about the Western Division. Not that we need that to know, but my goodness, if Rutgers wins that game, they pretty much have a strong argument as the fourth best team in the conference.
Yeah, could, yeah.
They're going to be 7-3. They will have beaten Iowa. So there's our poll, folks. 162 votes in Nebraska, 77%, Maryland, 23. Give it a look. Let us know what you think. And
I
who's
like
going to
the
pull this team
optimism.
out? Yeah, why not?
I tell you, most of the week, I mean, I kind of changed my tune, but I kind of thought Nebraska was dead in the water after losing last Saturday. But I kind of changed my tune a little bit. So I think Nebraska now has a fairly good chance of winning this game at least.
Was that the Matt Rule factor that got you back on board?
Yeah, I think so. Just with the confidence that he has. And I mean, you can really tell, every time he talks to the media, he's not really talking to us. He's more talking to his players, just sending messages to his players, and I think that goes a long way of motivating them.
He can do that.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. Most definitely. All right, folks. We do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. This is our Nebraska show. It's been going on forever for the last 3 years, practically on Tuesday nights. We've moved to Thursday. We will let you know in a few weeks what we plan on doing going forward. But as it stands right now, through the rest of the regular season, we're going to be on here at Thursday, 2 Eastern, 1 Central. All right. Well, unless there's anything involving recruiting, anything simmering there?
Not really. I mean, it's been pretty quiet. Besides having recruits, recruit weekends and stuff. I mean, their 2024 class has been pretty much done for quite a while now. So a lot of the recruiting going on is for 2025 and 26 right now. And you're still waiting on a couple of guys like Grant Bricks being probably the biggest name there, that waiting on a decision there. Which Nebraska, they've pulled out all the stops on Grant Bricks. A couple of weeks ago, they had the Nebraska semi truck, the equipment truck, parked outside of Grant Bricks' school for a couple of days, trying to send a message there.
What kind of?
He comes from a small town, Logan, Iowa, so it was pretty funny. Then they turned around and trucked it to Ainsworth, Nebraska, for Carter Nelson too. Who Carter Nelson, his team got beat in the first round of the playoffs, so he's been done. And Notre Dame has not given up on him at all. They've been to every one of his games. They fly in a private jet and land in a little tiny airport there. So they've been doing that all season. But he still remains firm to Nebraska, so that's a good thing.
Was it surprising that his team got knocked out in the first round?
Yes, it was very surprising. That's what you have a lot of these local commits that Nebraska has. Pretty much they're all done playing besides Caleb Benning with Westside. So
okay. Well, no more.
Caleb Benning was the latest commit, guy that's held an offer for a long time. And, Dad, Damon Benning, was a running back at Nebraska. And
oh, yeah.
so he'd been expected to commit for quite a while, and he finally did pull the trigger. So.
So if we look at the list here, we've got 2024 commits. On three's got 25th in the nation, 7th in the Big Ten. And again, Carter Nelson at the top. And we're only just about a month away from National Signing Day.
Yeah, early signing day.
Yeah.
Which, you've seen with the early signing day that, you pretty much ink about 95% of your class now in December. So kind of makes that February signing day, not as important as it used to be.
No. So with Carter Nelson and Notre Dame coming after him, besides him, do you have any other concerns about losing anyone else?
No, not really. Nope.
Who else is out there besides Ricks that is there anybody else that they're targeting that they've got a good shot at?
Not really anybody that comes to mind.
So this class looks pretty well locked.
They're obviously, going to probably take 5 or 6 portal players to bolster positions. So that's kind of what you're saving the rest of those scholarships for.
So this looks like it's pretty much going to be the class. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Good stuff. Nebraska, Maryland, 11 a.m. Central Time. Peacock. Figure out, folks, how to get that. It's not that difficult. I figured it out a few weeks ago. I just have to remember to cancel is what I can remember to do. I got a 3-month trial for free.
There you go.
So I marked it on my calendar when I've got to cancel by. So we need to get that.
I'm one of those idiots that have had Peacock for a couple years already.
Do you like it? Is there anything on there you got it for?
I only got it so I could watch the Tour de France.
I remember you saying that now.
This summer, yeah. I'm a cycling nerd at heart.
Very cool. All right, folks. We'll enjoy the game on Saturday. And again, get locked in on Peacock. I guess you're forced to do that at least for this week. And then the next 2 weekends, I don't know that that's been announced. I think the Iowa game's on CBS or Fox.
Yeah, I think it is CBS.
CBS to finish it out on Friday, Black Friday. Very good. All right, Greg, thanks for making this work. Enjoy the game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game for sure.
Yeah, 2 teams that don't get together a whole lot.
Right.
And we'll see how that shakes out with the Big Ten schedule going forward. Outside of Iowa, everybody's fair game every season, the way they're approaching this scheduling. So there could be a little bit more Maryland on the schedule going forward. Good stuff. All right, folks, enjoy the game on Saturday. Huskers looking for that bowl-eligible 6th win against Maryland, and I'm expecting a close one. All right, Greg, appreciate you being here.
Not a problem.
Have a good rest of your week.
Will do.
See you next week.
Okay.